Hey iRacers, we're here at Chicagoland Speedway for Season 2, Episode 15 of HotLaps. A lot of people think because Chicago is a 1.5 mile track that it's a cookie cutter, but there's actually a lot of characteristics that make Chicago one of the more unique tracks on the schedule. I'm going to talk about a few of those and run a hot lap here in a second.
Alright, so we're going to hit the line at 197, arc it out as much as we can into turn 1. Get right down to that white line pretty soon. You see all the tire marks on the white line, that's where you want to be. Come off, carry as much speed as you can down the straightaway. It's not actually a straightaway, it's got a bit of a curve to it. Get right back down to that white line in 3 and 4. You see all the marks again on that white line, that's where you want to be. Come off and be sure to cut this apron. We'll run a 29.94 with the fixed setup.
Unlike Atlanta last week, Chicago has a lot less grip. It's really easy to slide around quite a bit, but one thing it does have in common is the bumps. This track is really bumpy. Before iRacing, it was difficult to really get a feel for this track because it was so smooth in prior simulations. When iRacing laser scanned this track, it really brought out its character. 3 and 4 is really bumpy compared to 1 and 2, and it's quite a bit more line sensitive as well. 2 weeks ago at Atlanta, if you got stuck to the outside, you were going backwards, but that's not going to be the case this week. There's actually a really nice upper groove. You can hold somebody off for quite a long time if you run your car properly up there. 1 and 2 feels like a more wide sweeping turn. You've got a lot of room on entry, and you feel more comfortable running side by side through this turn. Because people feel so comfortable, you'll see a lot of action because the car on the outside will actually pinch down the car on the bottom quite a bit. In 3 and 4, it's a lot easier for the guy on the bottom to miss the turn and slide up the track a little bit, so that means the guy on the outside has to give more room, otherwise it's going to cause a crash. If you miss this turn by a foot, you're going to lose at least half a tenth to a tenth of a second. You've got to pin those left side tires right next to that white line in order to get through this turn quickly. 2 weeks ago at Atlanta, if you were stuck on the outside for the restart, you're probably going to lose a couple spots, unfortunately. The guys on the inside kind of freight train you. But at Chicago, it's pretty nice because the outside isn't at a severe disadvantage. We had a spectacular finish, one of the best I've ever seen in the NASCAR Racing Series World Championship between Brandon Hawk, Tyler Hudson, and Joey Brown. These guys put on a great race. I expect to see much of the same this week. Last year, the series went to Chicagoland 2 times, and Ray Alfalla took the wins in both of those races. And this is actually his best track as far as average finish goes. Last week's winner, Joey Brown, is actually really good on the 1.5 mile tracks, so I expect him to be good. Kevin King has shown some speed as of late. He might be good tonight. And Brandon Hawk had an incredible second career start last week at Atlanta. If he shows up tonight, he might be a contender as well. One thing to keep an eye on is the J-Show cars. Last week, admittedly, they were really bad and couldn't keep up with the front runners. Hopefully this week they've solved their setup issues. For the first time in this series history, we're going to have to run back-to-back weeks. Not to mention Kansas next week is a completely new track for us drivers. It should be a lot of fun to see how everything plays out, but first things first, we're going to get through tonight, and I hope that we get a lot of green flag runs like last week, and we put on a great show.